Now, as exciting as Juan Garcia and Nico Williams possibly could be, before we get excited about that, I think I just want to not even throw water on it, but kind of bring up why Tebas is already throwing out the alarm bells and trying to make Kool-Aid's worried about what's going to happen. So the official quote from Javier Tebas as of, I believe, yesterday, he said, one thing is to make Juan Garcia's signing official. Another is registering him. They have to make some moves and some decisions on players. I hear so much. I don't even know what they're writing is true. Barcelona are not currently under the 1-to-1 rule. They have to do some things to be able to register him. Not many things, but still some things, and they know what they are. I can't tell you. The window isn't even open yet, but we'll see soon. I don't know if they have the money to pay Nico Williams' release clause. First and foremost, they need to make sure they have space to register him. They still haven't met the requirements to make signings. They're still not under the 1-to-1 rule. If they want Nico, they have to sell and make some major adjustments to their books. Now, there is some truth to what he's saying because the window does not officially even open till July 1st. So you can sign the players, but you cannot even begin the process of registering them, which they have to do ultimately by September the 1st. Now, I believe the first date is August the 12th or the 13th. And then they go from there to try to, like Koundé, then they have till September 1st to have him registered, or then neither of these players would be registered until January. And I say neither. Juan Garcia, obviously official. Nico Williams, not yet even close to official to what we understand. So there's a few things from the Tebas statements that I do want to address. The first thing is that I know that Kool-Aids are very adversarial with Tebas, and the one thing that I will say that Tebas is probably pretty adversarial about is that I can't imagine he's entirely thrilled about the court ruling, the CAS case with Dani Olmo and Pau Victor and their registration, and how Barcelona didn't have to worry about unregistering them or having to worry about that. They were just registered because in the courts that just continued to be a can that was kicked down the road, and Barcelona wound up ending the season, and now anything would be retroactive, so that court ruling would be upheld and everything would be legal for Barcelona in terms of Dani Olmo and Pau Victor. So that wound up not leading to anything from what La Liga would have wanted. And his statements also, there is truth to them that he doesn't know if Barcelona can afford them. Well, the answer that we know is that yes, Barcelona can afford Nico Williams' release clause to 62 million euros, or you've seen anywhere from 57 to 62. You assume that it's 62, and potentially with agent kickbacks and all those different things, the number would be probably higher on the surface. But I want to remind everybody that while Tebas says he's not sure that the club can afford him, yes, the club, with the cash influx that they've had, or the profit that they've made in the last year, yes, they can pay the release clause, but whether or not their revenue meets the strict FFP in Spain based on the budget that the Liga then has to approve. So I'll say that again. Liga has to approve a budget. And there's a number of different things we're about to talk to in terms of the details of that budget. But if Liga approves the budget, that is how the salary limit for the wage bill is set. And then Barcelona's wages have got to fit within that FFP structure, or the financial fair play structure in their wage bill. So yes, as far as the total profit that they have brought in terms of the money that they have in the banks and all those different things, yes, they're in a ton of debt, but they're also in a ton of debt based on a stadium that they know that they're going to be able to put a lot of seats in for a long, long time, and TV deals and all these things with Champions League money, getting to the semifinals and all those different things. Now, just in terms of the transfers, which transfers out go automatically towards FFP and reducing that wage bill. So the deal's already out that Barcelona will, in theory, not have to worry about, that go, again, right to that wage bill are Alex Valle to Como for 6 million, to Debo, they sell on to West Ham for 8.5 mil. Lenglet, he did leave for free, but because he was going to come back as a loan player, we don't have to worry about his wages or even paying some of his wages and having to send him back out on loan. Idas Moriba had a 600K sell on to Celta, so not really a lot of money there. Same thing, Alex Callado, a 500K sell on to Al Shamal. One again, that is 1.1 mil right there, so it's a little something. And then Ludovic Reis, remember him? Is he a Dutch midfielder, right? He's had a little bit of a, not even a cup of coffee. He's been playing in Germany for a little bit now at Hamburg, and it's so interesting because Hamburg wound up getting promoted to the Bundesliga, and to try and reinforce their squad, they're now selling him for 6 mil to Bruges. So with that deal being done, again, the sell-on fee for Barcelona here is 1.5 mil for him. So that, my math's not the best, but equals about 12 million euros that they brought in, or a little bit more than that, actually. And then Juan Garcia already with his 12 million euros of the release clause that they're having to pay for him. That's right now a negative 7.9 mil on transfers, which is why Tebas and all these other journalists are saying that a big a big sale would be required for Barcelona to be able to safely get back to the 1-1. But it's not necessarily about the selling of players. I think that's an easy way out that a lot of these pundits who don't really care about the minutia and don't really care about auditors and all these other boring things about seeding deals. Nobody has to care about that if you just say, hey, Barcelona, you got to just sell players, because obviously if you sell a player, that number comes in. It's easy math because that goes right to the wage bill. But to return to the 1-1, in all actuality, without even a big sale, it appears that it's, again, back to the boring stuff. The auditors, that's Crow Global, they have to validate the VIP seating deal. We've been hearing about this for a few weeks now, actually up to 2 or 3 months. That deal has to be done by June 30th, though, so that budget can be approved by the Liga for the summer. The Libero payment, which we've been talking about for 8-9 months now, that is still in limbo. So I would say do not expect that payment. I think that obviously is now going to be entering the court system. So if Barcelona does get that, I think it was 40 million, if my memory serves right. We're going to have to wait a little bit on that. The argument that Crow Global is making is they are saying that the 100 million revenue from the sale of the 5% stake in the VIP seats can't be recorded as an asset until the Spotify Camp Nou is completed. Yeah, and I'm not sure about that, but obviously for someone who would want Barcelona to be financially, not even solvent, but to be financially reasonable, would not allow them to, once again, continue to push forward ideas for the future and revenue they can make in the future for the now. But it doesn't really feel like mortgaging, because those VIP seats aren't going anywhere and they are part of the stadium bills. So it's not like that is necessarily numbers that is going to change drastically in the future, the way the broadcast rights or the CVC deal would have done. So again, La Liga and Tebas, they're already saying, however, now this is a positive about Tebas, people don't say it often, but La Liga and Tebas did already say in January that those Spotify Camp Nou VIP seats would be accepted for next year's budget, which then takes place beginning July 1st. So that would be a good thing that, again, the auditors are pushing against actually what Liga had said. So when Tebas says, I'm not sure, I think he truly means he's not sure, because he doesn't know the budget that Liga is going to approve for Barcelona, and Barcelona still has some business to do in that way. Because the positive for Barca, it does appear that making that broadcast money from finishing second in the UCL league phase and then making the UCL semis plus the domestic treble, that could make up for what was a 28 million euro loss on not getting back into the Camp Nou on that schedule. Though I also think this is a little bit of shame on Laporta and company. But obviously they're going to promise that they were going to be back in the stadium by the spring. I mean, even actually last November, they said they were going to be back there. Those things, especially with construction in Spain and construction anywhere around the world, those projects, they drag on and drag on. Obviously, we know that was pie in the sky. And I think they knew that a little bit too, which is why at the moment they're on the margins and kind of waiting, or having to wait until the final hour, June 30th, to try to get their full budget in for approval to see who and how they can register players. Remember, they can also then sell other players if that's the case, to, again, bump that wage bill up of what La Liga would then provide them for this coming season. Now, hypothetically, let's just talk if a sale is made. You've got Araujo, Christensen, Pablo Torre, because Sevilla was hot on his tail today, Pau Victor, and Fermin. Well, I tell you, this is just smoke, no fire here. The club, I think, is going to shut these down, but it does seem like he might be one of the carrots that are being dangled in some kind of way, because both Bayern and Saudi Arabia, they have tried to submit bids for him, which tells you that there's outside interest for him. And I would also say the club, this is kind of going under the radar, they can probably extend and sell Noah Darvic. Now, unless he's ready to, he might be on a free, so you might have to throw this out. But if the club, as I said, can extend his contract and then sell him or do a sell on for him, I think that'd be smart, because I watched him with the U19s with Germany just yesterday in quite a few little match highlights. He continues to impress every time he goes to the German youth teams. And I know it's different than the third division of Spanish football, but I think Noah Darvic is a player who, in potentially 3 to 4 years, when you have a club that can surround him in an atmosphere that he wants, and maybe not necessarily a Spanish-speaking club, but a club that's going to be able to support his growth and progress in a way that I just don't think Barcelona can do, well, then he might be a player that winds up being I mean, a pretty penny for Barcelona in the future. So that's another little piece of something, though that might be money, very much like the sell-ons that we're talking about with Debo and Moriba and Callado. That might just be a sell-on for the future. So that's all the boring money stuff. And I know that's not really something everybody cares about. But when we're talking about Joan Garcia, we're talking about Nico Williams. Again, I know it's so boring, and we just kind of assume that the club is going to get it done and register them. But as far as what Tebas is saying and registration for those two players, that is all the boring stuff that Barcelona and the hurdles that Barcelona have to jump over before they're able to just confidently register these players, and for culés to consider worry about if a sale is necessary, a big important sale is necessary, because I also didn't mention Ansu Fati at all, and we probably should mention Ansu Fati because getting his numbers off the wage bill will help as well. So the sooner that deal is done, as far as June 30th, July 1st, that will also help the club out. And then we can truly begin talking about Nico Williams and Joan Garcia, which I implore you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help me out on Big Up by joining me for the transfer talk in the offseason, as well as, again, following on any of the podcast apps, joining Patreon, all those different things. So that's the fun stuff. Well, by fun stuff, I mean the money stuff. And now we finally have the opportunity, as this will hit your feeds soon enough, about Joan Garcia and Nico Williams.